Hello, my name is Joan. I'm the NTID librarian at RIT. I am just so excited to discuss today's book featuring Clerc and Gallaudet. I am a proud graduate of Gallaudet University, a sister institute of the National Technical Institute for the Deaf. I'd like to note the ceramic plate on the slide of Le Pay that was designed to celebrate the 300th birth anniversary in 2012. This can be found in our Deaf Studies archive collections, where we have deaf artwork and other items. This plate was designed by the artist Ellen Mansfield, who is a deaf artist. If you could go to the next slide. I traveled to Paris in 2012 to learn more about Le Pay and to participate in their banquet. I was curious to learn more about his life. And while participating at the banquet, I picked up one of the 300 medals. You can see them over here. Collected articles, books, and websites, as well as artwork. And NTID decided to replicate this banquet. And we did one popular activity where we had students would role play famous deaf individuals throughout history. And folks could visit tables, and the deaf actors would explain who they were in history and talk about their importance in deaf history. Next slide. Notice the statue in the photograph on the left. This is a statue of Le Pay at St. Mary's School in Buffalo, New York. This is the only statue of him in the United States. Our engineering students visited this school to make a replica of the bust, which you see in this photograph. It's there on the right. If you could go to the next slide. There are two photographs on this slide that feature several different people. These reference the sign Union flag. The inventor of this flag, Arnaud Ballard, designed this flag. It's entitled the sign Union flag. Arnaud Ballard visited Rochester to talk about the design process of the flag. You can see him standing with other deafblind participants in the photo on the left. The next photograph shows a woman, Christiane Perrot, who is signing an ASL poem. This was to celebrate the 25th anniversary of DeVia, which stands for Deaf View Image Art. If you'll notice the flag in the background, this is now part of our collection. We loan it out for special events. Next slide. Now this slide shows information that I've developed through my work at the library. There's a library website called Info Guides. This is helpful for people to find information about deaf topics. You can see my contact information here, and there's also a feature where you can chat. Next slide. Here is an example of an info guide. This is one that I developed to help people who are researching Clerc and Gallaudet. I'd like to draw your attention to the column on the left, which has different topics that you can explore. Next slide. This webinar will be available as a video recording. So what you are seeing today is the page from the RID SCC, which is the RIT ASL Deaf Studies Community Center. The coordinator for that program is Jean Beam. She hosts our lecture series, and all of you can view these recorded lectures for free at any time. Our webinars will be posted on this website, and you'll see the recording from today here listed as well. Next slide. This week is Clerc Gallaudet Week, and this was founded by a deaf public librarian by the name of Alice Hagermeyer. She's from Washington, D.C. She started this in 1974 to honor and recognize Clerc and Gallaudet's birth anniversaries, two men who were leaders in the field of deaf education. All right, now let us begin our book discussion. I'd like to take a moment to introduce Chris and Miriel. Hello to both of you. I'd like to begin with a question to Miriel. Could you tell me what prompted you to contact me?
Well, as a matter of fact, given the scope of our work and the amount of documents I had already collected, I applied to the RIT library for a particular archive document, and I was automatically directed to Joan and to Joan's email address. Then Joan directed me to Christopher Course. And here we are. So a French hearing woman and an American deaf man met by chance. And this is maybe a replica of the Laurent Clerc and Thomas Gallaudet story, starting again. It's really good.
Yes, that's true. So again, for Marielle, could you explain the program that you work for? Do you work with deaf and hearing individuals?
Okay, I mean, to cut a long story short, I have always been interested in languages and communication. And what is important in life for me is not the isolated individual, but what's going on between two individuals. My discovery of English at an early age grew into a passion. I taught English and American literature for many, many years. When I was appointed General Inspector for Education in 1998, I was still dealing with languages. In 2005 in France, a law was passed concerning equality for all students in education. And I was then interested by the minister to see whether all deaf pupils all over the country were properly educated. So I started visiting all schools with deaf students everywhere and came back, of course, to the idea that deaf teachers should be there. So I created the CAPES, which is a certificate enabling deaf people and all candidates to become fully recognized teachers in France. Then, of course, I've been promoting the teaching and learning of sign language in all schools. And I try to develop an interest for deaf culture, which is so rich. The consortium, by the way, developed an application in 4 languages: French, LSF, English, ASL. And from this date on, I've been working in deaf cultures, that is French culture, but also American culture. And these projects have been supported kindly by the US Embassy in France.
Wow, that's outstanding. Could you tell me why you decided to apply for the book and pedagogy project through the US Embassy in France?
Yes, of course. I mean, I had been working with the French Embassy in Washington years ago to pair US states with French academies. An academy in France is an education area, and we have 18 of them at the moment. My idea was to pair students, exchange them, and make them both relate and learn languages. Now, we have to know that the French Embassy in Paris and the Washington Embassy as well are sharing information and projects in the field of education. So the US Embassy informed me in April that they had a call for a 1-year project within the frame of Franco-American friendship around commemorative events. I jumped into this opportunity to apply for a project around the Laurent Clerc and Thomas Gallaudet story. And the consortium project was accepted by the embassy. So I'm very grateful, of course, to the embassy and to their support, enabling me to be with all of you today. Thank you so much.
That's very exciting. Now, Chris, how did you get involved with this project?
I became involved in this project. Marielle was, going along, and we were connected through Joan. She introduced us through my university here at RIT. I had previously taught instruction in America related to the topic and had published articles and information on Laurent Clerc as well as Thomas H. Gallaudet. So we developed a relationship, Marielle and I, and a collaboration. And we had been working together. She had a year-long project and I joined her as she had already started it. We worked as well as collaborated on a variety of different resources that we were able to obtain. Marielle and I were able to get French resources as well as American resources to put them together, and it's been a fantastic journey over the last several months. The time was much shorter than we would have liked, but I believe it was successful and a very vital piece of work and resource for people in the future.
Why was it important to both of you to write this book about Clerc and Gallaudet?
Developing this, we had a vision. Very often people are taught and know quite a bit. From talking with people and from what I've seen, Clerc and Gallaudet are both known. Their name is well known. However, Gallaudet, due to the university in DC, his name seems to be more well known. There is no Clerc University as of yet. Maybe there will be someday, hopefully. Though Gallaudet's name is really out there, there has been quite a bit published regarding him and his family, whereas there's very little known and or published about Laurent Clerc. So people are aware that he existed, that he was French, that he was deaf, and that he did come here and help to establish the first deaf school, that he signed LSF, that he founded ASD in Connecticut, and they know that he worked with Gallaudet, but they don't know much more than that and what happened during that journey that led up to those events, who his colleagues and friends and peers were, the contemporaries of that time, and how they were viewed at that time. So this book really aims to put all those pieces together and to gain those different perspectives and to have them all compiled in one place. The teachers then who have been trained to teach this bit of history, instead of teaching the same old story of Gallaudet and Clerc met and then set up the first school and not knowing much more than that, they now have a much richer, deeper resource that they're able to use in their teaching of deaf histories for deaf studies, as well as linguistics.
Marielle, would you like to comment?
Having an interest in deaf culture and history, I did realize that Laurent Clerc, a Frenchman, was barely known in France, whereas he was much appreciated in the US for his cooperation, of course, with Thomas Gallaudet. Now, the story of their first meeting becoming a lifelong friendship really fascinated me. And so, of course, I decided to do something about it. In addition to this, this fitted in so well with my knowledge of Franco-American relationships, as I have experienced them when I visited your country for many times with my husband. As a former teacher and linguist, I was particularly attracted by how Laurent Clerc and Thomas Gallaudet learned each other's language on a boat in 52 days. Wow. And of course, as an educator immersed in deaf culture and promoting sign languages as much as I can, I was attracted by what they achieve together in deaf education.
Chris?
If I could add, this book was also really important because it was the first of its kind that has the language that is bilingually produced, that has both French and English published together side by side. And eventually we didn't want them to be translated at a later date. We wanted them to be together so that they could be compared, but also for people who are skilled in both languages to take advantage of both.
It is so important for our deaf children and deaf students to know about our own deaf heritage. So I think this is a wonderful start. Now to my next question. What was new or surprising that you learned about Claire and Gallaudet while both of you were working on the book?
What was important for me is that we came to know them in depth beyond what I already knew about them. In France, L'Abbé de l'Épée is much more popular than Laurent Clerc. This, of course, might be due to the fact that Laurent Clerc traveled to the States, married there, settled there, and remained there till the end of his life. So he vanished from France, so to speak, right? But what I discovered really was how much appreciated Laurent Clerc is in your country. And thank you for him.
This is Chris. I learned about both Claire and Gallaudet over the years at different ages and different points of view regarding them. And it has changed. My point of view about them has changed the older I've gotten, the more I've learned, the more research that I've done. I think that this work really gave me the opportunity to delve deeper and into the two of them and the different work that they've done, the different people who they've impacted, who have written about them. And I really have taken in quite a bit of the information. I believe it's really helped me appreciate more, and the information, some of it has been positive and some of it has been negative. But that is a part of seeing that point of view that's been passed down in that legacy.
How is it different for you to write a book collaboratively and from different locations, one in France, one in America? Were there any aspects of that that was fun or uplifting or perhaps frustrating? Tell us more about writing the book.
What was particularly helpful and comfortable was how well we got on together straight away, Christopher and I. Our chance meeting turned immediately into a cooperative relationship full of respect, confidence, and enthusiasm. Our English written fluency was an asset, and hundreds of mails went to and fro during months. So this is how it worked. No problem.
Marielle and I met. We have not met in person, and it's all been entirely virtual via Zoom. We would have email conversations, as she mentioned, but nothing live or in person. So to, finally see her is fabulous. Most of our correspondence was through email. I'm grateful that she knew English and was proficient. I am not very fluent at all in French. So we would use Google Translate for some of the French, and I would try to figure some things out by the context, but there were some miscommunications with written language, which of course is only natural. We were able to connect, as she mentioned. Our interests really aligned, and we have worked collaboratively and really well together to see the different points of view, both the French and American points of view, and to be able to put our ideas together. We really had the same goal in mind and wanted to really work to boost our teachers' education. And so that really drove our work to delve deeper together and work well together. I think it was also a benefit to have the deaf perspective, to really know the history of the past all the way to the present. And so it went very well.
How did you research the book? What materials did you use in the writing process?
I was very grateful to RIT. We have a fabulous librarian, Joan, and quite a wealth of resources. So we had access to archived journals, primary resources, different written letters and so forth that we were able to have access to. And I was able to share those with Marielle so we could both read them and then discuss them. So RIT helped immensely. So I really want to make sure Joan recognizes our appreciation for her help.
I was very happy to help.
I do agree with everything Christopher said. I just want to add something. Joan was really very helpful, never tired of answering my emails, sending documents, providing information. Thank you so much. I also want to thank Mr. Jeff Bravin, the director of the ASD, whom I contacted and who immediately put me into contact with Jean Lindemann, librarian at the Coxwell Museum and Library in ASD. She too was really a decisive provider of archived documents, as were many university professors in France and in the US whom I contacted. They all sent information and free access to their publications. Thank you so much.
Now, who did you find the most fascinating? Which character did you research and find most fascinating, and why?
I mean, obviously, I am fascinated by both Laurent Clerc as well as Thomas Gallaudet. So Claire, of course, we're both deaf and we're both teachers and educators and worked at schools for the deaf. So I really resonated with him and found him interesting. Albert Hallenborg published an article related to Laurent Clerc during his time coming after Clerc came to America and settled with his family and children, some religious aspects, and really looked into that. I found that really fascinating. This project really made me even more interested in the contemporaries of Clerc's time and the people who wrote about him, his students, people who were around him, as well as friends and peers, and those who he led in America once he arrived, to see their writing and the things that they said about Clerc, as well as Gallaudet, was those stories that they shared and examples were fascinating. One example is John Hotchkiss. He was one of the first deaf teachers they had at Gallaudet. He was a teacher of literature, and he tells a story of when he was younger and Clerc, he remembers him as a boy. He was living nearby to the school and would walk all around the area, and Hotchkiss tells the story of remembering running into him and explaining what he looked like and that interaction and those memories. So he would tell deaf students and other deaf people that people are interesting and fascinating because of the influence and legacy that they leave. And for generations, the impact they had has been phenomenal. And so I really enjoyed seeing other people's stories.
For me, Laurent Clerc and Thomas Gallaudet are always together in my mind. And they achieved what they did in deaf education precisely, according to me, because they were so complementary. And if there is a lesson from all this, it is that when we work together, we work better.
What important lessons did the two of you learn from collaborative research and writing?
Actually, since we both, Christopher and I, accepted to work together days on end, this led to an intensive activity, producing a book which I think is intense and coherent as a whole. Collaborative research was very, very interesting and efficient indeed. It cemented our links and was efficient and productive. Of course, I won't say that every day was like a paradise on earth. We had some difficulties, we had some hurdles, and Christopher, you know it, formatting the book in August was really a nightmare, of course, for technical reasons. It was the last challenge, but we met it.
Yes, agreed, Marielle. We had a lot of fortitude to get through the process. We had to be flexible as well as dedicated. We had family that we were balancing as well as work life. And we had to stay on schedule, as well as the time difference between both France and America. And so we were working at different times and passing off our work to each other, as well as what was most vital was our communication, having check-ins, making sure all things were going well and accordingly. Marielle is fabulous at responding to email as well as writing them, but we had to make sure that we got everything done on our list, and that really helped to have a plan to follow. It was wonderful. And the vision of the things that we needed to accomplish got done, and it was a wonderful experience.
Thank you.
Do you know of any films or plays that feature Claire and Gallaudet? And if you do, what are they? And should we create a more contemporary version of a play or perhaps a new film about their story?
Growing up in Detroit, Michigan, here in the States, there's a deaf community, and there was a film that was made, as well as a stage play. I remember when I was younger seeing that. It was about Gallaudet. There was a play that was called Laurent Claire's Profile. And the teacher had a film of the play that we watched, of Claire and the story written about him. So I remember watching that when I was younger. However, most stories that are made tend to be about Gallaudet. And those are mostly what I've seen throughout my life. Occasionally, there's a few things about Claire. There was one French play in 2003, made in France, I believe, that celebrated at the Convention for the Deaf, the IHI, the International Convention. And it was in the city of Claire's birth, and they were opening a museum for the grand opening. They had a brief play in honor of Claire. That is one I'm familiar with. In 2017, Gallaudet, you did have something about Gallaudet and Claire's meeting, as well as Cogswell. And they did make a film. I believe it's 45 minutes long. It's a documentary regarding their life. So I would be thrilled to see more media, more plays and or documentaries, films regarding these characters, the difficulties they faced, and the journey that they went through in their life. Maybe even regarding their children, or how did they work as well as establish a school. And I think it would be interesting to talk to their family members and interview, because there are deaf ancestors and teachers of the deaf in the family lineage. Gallaudet had a son, Edward Minor Gallaudet. So it would be interesting to talk and learn more about the heritage and the descendants of the family. Thomas was a teacher as well as a clergy member, as well as Claire and his son. He was Francis. He was also a teacher and became a clergy member. So they really did value the deaf community and the deaf culture, as well as education and also the soul in terms of religion. It was really in their spirit.
I will answer on 2 points. The first one about films and the second one about Laurent Claire family. Now, films, unfortunately, I don't know any films about Laurent and Thomas Gallaudet, except from a few clips on YouTube that might be some excerpts from plays as well, but I don't know. But in our units and PowerPoint sections, we have suggested different activities for students, among them role playing. I will just give you an example. Laurent Claire meets Alice, play the scene. Or Laurent Claire and Gallaudet meets for the first time, maybe on the boat, play the scene. My wish is that students all over the world in different schools could appropriate the story of these two wonderful characters and create by themselves short plays, some scenes, or some poetry, working together, hearing and deaf students together. And if they were doing so, of course, the heritage will continue for more generations. Secondly, I would like to say something about Laurent Clerc family. Luckily enough, I could contact Laurent Holt. Laurent Holt is Laurent Clerc's descendant, 6th generation removed. Now, can you imagine how moved and honored I was the first time I could phone and exchange with Laurent Holt? Now, of course, you want to know, I'm sure, what the conversation was about. Very simple. The answer is, what in a name? Interestingly enough, and you will find echoes of this in the book. All along those months, spring, summer, and so on, Laurent Holt kept very discreet presence, and his calls to me were always very supportive and always instructive. So thank you very much to Laurent as well.
How would you both like to expand this project? You focused on Claire and Gallaudet. Are there other important topics that we should be developing resources on in this type of format? Perhaps a book or a video project?
Marielle can answer this more in depth. This project was really designed with a pedagogical approach in mind. We were really hoping that teachers could use this in their training, as well as take a look at our resources from the bibliography and pick and choose different options to use within their teaching. I'll really let Marielle describe this more in depth.
Sure, we won't stop where we are. Why should we? Now, what might happen is that we might add more units and PowerPoints to the first lot we did. We created 15 of them. We can do the 16th ones up to 20, 30, whatever the number. That's certainly a very nice project. Second, of course, we can carry on working together by putting teachers into contact as well. I don't know about your teachers in the US, but in France, teachers teaching LSF, that is hearing people or deaf people, they're quite isolated. What I discovered when we did the units and the PowerPoints is that we have similar pedagogical approaches, of course, but we also have differences. What is interesting, not similarities, but definitely the differences. I learned a lot when I worked with Laura Martin. Thank you so much to her as well. Because I mean, she would say to me, well, here in America, we would do this. And I would say, well, in France, we would do it differently. So we're going to find a compromise or add the American approach to the French one. Now, this is really interesting because it questions your own methods and practices. Thirdly, I was approached quite recently by an American university who wants to develop a project with us, and also by the French Alliance Institute in Maine State, who will work with us and the consortium, maybe to teach French to their deaf students. And certainly I will pair them with a class in France, with a group of students in France, deaf people learning French as well. So on both sides of the Atlantic, those people could work together. And this is what Laurent Clerc and Thomas Gallaudet probably would like to see.
This sounds like a study abroad program that I was involved with in Italy. It's housed in Siena. They taught Italian Sign Language, Italian written language, and they taught Italian folks their American Sign Language. So it just sounds like a very cool approach to setting up a study abroad program for deaf people. Go ahead, Chris.
And to follow up on that with a study abroad program, we are NTID and RIT have a study abroad program coming soon to France. We did one in 2019 that I led. And we visited several different areas in France. We visited the different schools and so forth. Then with COVID, we had to put everything on hold. And now we are finally setting up another trip to France that will be happening this coming summer in 2022 with 2 different cohorts. And students had to apply, and we had an increase of students applying more than ever before. We had 70 applications for 24 open spots. So because of the overwhelming interest, we decided to open a second cohort, and then we will also be going again in 2023. So they will be learning basic LSF language skills because it will be deaf-led, and they will be able to pick up some basic LSF skills as well as French history, French deaf history, and comparison between French and American history. So I'm really excited and looking forward to leading that group again this summer and working and continuing our collaboration between France and America.
That sounds exciting. I wish I could join you all. How can people view the book? Is it free? If they would like to purchase a print edition, how do they go about that?
For the moment, the book and the matching material are to be found on the consortium platform, right? But I have more and more pressing questions from different people asking me where they could buy the book, okay? So I sent a letter to the embassy a few days ago, asking them permission to have the book and material published with a private publisher. Of course, I will give the information on the consortium website, so go visit it regularly.
I would like for you both to think about the most interesting or exciting thing that you discovered along your research journey. Something that perhaps made you proud of your culture and your history.
As a deaf person, deaf culture is a part of me. It's a part of my identity. It's a part of who I've always been. I've always been interested in deaf historical characters and wanting to learn more about them. The difference between France and America in the schooling that we have and the history behind that, and really what similarities, how things happened to get to where we are today in terms of establishing Gallaudet University and deaf schools, and how ASL has developed over time and has become regionalized. It has been very interesting to see the different dialects that have developed, and to look back at where it all started with two people who met and who started this amazing thing. And that today, that thing they started is still continuing, that the school is that they founded in Hartford is still running. It never closed. And that's quite impressive. And in France, the INJS school, where Clerc was originally from, he was there from age 12 and growing up, and really didn't sign until that time when he first arrived in that school in Paris, in INJS, and he learned sign. He became a teacher. In that school, INJS is still open and running today. To see both of these schools where things originated are still open and running and still going strong today is very inspiring. And these schools still have an exchange program where students can visit and study in the other school from America to France and vice versa. So I think that really shows the value of deaf culture and sign language in both of our worlds today.
When working in education, wherever the place you live in, we're bound to share values. Now, the values are the values of education. To educate means to elevate, to raise, to enable people to develop their potential, whatever it is, to develop their competences. Everyone has got competences, and they may be very different, but always complementary. So working in education is fabulous because it makes people understand that what's at the core of all this are our human values, and those human values are the same everywhere. The second point, and I will end on this, is when you start a project, when you want to do something, you have to put passion into it. If you put passion into it, it will be working. It will bring rewards. It will bring something to the other one. And this is what's important in life. To help the other ones develop their identity, their creativity, their competences, their confidence in life and in society. This is why we're all educators.
I remember when I was helping both of you with your research, I was surprised to find out that Clerc had become a little bit upset about sign language translation. Since he had arrived, he was signing using LSF and seeing it change over time.
Albert Liebach wrote an article about Clerc's internal conflicts, what he felt about his own personal beliefs and values as compared to the changing world around him. Sign language is a living language and does evolve over time. When Clerc first arrived to America, his vision was that ASL, or the language created in America, would have many similarities to the language used in France. But because of our culture here in America, our own unique belief system, there was some changes made to the language and it evolved. Individuals who are deaf in different areas of the country, for example, Martha's Vineyard and other areas where there were pockets of deaf individuals, their unique idiosyncratic use of the language impacted how ASL evolved here in the States. Clerc saw that changing language, but again, for him, his vision was that in the classroom, the structure of LSF would be taught when teaching sign language. That may have happened in the classroom, but outside of the classroom, deaf individuals here in America took the language upon themselves and made unique changes. When Clerc was a young man, he learned from his instructor, and it was both his own language and the language of his instructor that he utilized and brought forth to teach himself. Deaf students in the schools here in America learned from Laurent Clerc, but also incorporated some of their own home signs and some of their own unique language usage. Laurent Clerc remained to be a staunch model of the language and grammar that he valued and cherished, but that he wasn't able to stop the evolution of the language. It wasn't until many years later that Laurent Clerc was able to give up his hold on his belief of the language remaining static and allowing it to evolve in its natural state. There may be videos in NTID in the library that showcase some of these unique deaf communities.
Could you talk a little bit about the influence of LSF on sign language more broadly in an international context? It's rather ironic that in Europe, the education system became predominantly oral. They resisted manualism and the use of sign language in classrooms with deaf pupils until much later in the 1980s. And then later, LSF had a bit of a resurgence, but could you clarify that history for me?
What I can say is that, of course, all languages are evolving and changing. And of course, sometimes they're also influencing one another. Now, what is interesting in France is that the fact that sign language is too slowly, certainly, but nonetheless spreading a little by little, is that it makes some teachers and educators aware of the fact that sign language, or more generally, body language, expression of the face, motion of the hands and the arms and the body, which is also a language, could be very useful to study because it could be sort of imported into the learning of other languages. I would just give you an example. When I was a teacher teaching English, I was really worried by the fact that my own students were stiff on their chairs all day long. And of course, I was asking them, for example, to put a stress on a word, but they couldn't do it because they were so static, so devoid of expression, so shy of showing whatever they wanted to show. This is, of course, cultural. So for me, languages are influencing one another, sometimes for worse, but sometimes for better as well.
If I could add to Muriel's comments. One thing I appreciate about this project is that I'm very familiar with history of deaf education here in America. We now have over 100 schools for the deaf in America. Over time, many of them have closed down, and we are down now to about 40. Through my work in this project, I realized that there were many schools for the deaf in France as well, Back in the days of the 1800s to the 1900s, I was surprised to learn of so many schools. They were separated and segregated by young boys and young girls in separate schools. Today now, France, though, is down from hundreds of schools for the deaf to just 3. That was an interesting thing that I learned throughout my project. And I appreciate as well the inclusive nature of deaf education.
That's right.
And how translation and interpretation and the experience of having transparency in language and culture and including those concepts into the classroom improve and make better the inclusivity of the classroom experience for all.
Yeah.
Over time, France began to move toward oralism, and the same is true for America. At this point in America, more than 50% of deaf and hard of hearing students are trained using the oralism method.
Mhm.
Deaf culture and deaf sign language, we fear, is slowly eroding away. Our hope is that through more dialogue and through more instruction, that the importance of language and culture can be recognized, not only by deaf individuals, but by the larger communities surrounding them, appreciating the many identities and cultures that are part of the cultural experience of the deaf community, both locally and throughout the world.
I would like to add something to what Christopher said. Of course, in France, much remains to be done, no doubt about that. Yet, inclusion is the key word nowadays, which means that more and more deaf students should be able to be in the same school as, or in the same classroom as hearing students, which of course raises many questions. But if I can be optimistic sometimes, it is when I think, and I do realize that more and more hearing pupils and students in France are learning sign language. Now, why? First reason, because I mean, we try to understand this phenomenon. First reason, they're fascinated by this language, which is so, difficult and mysterious for them. Second, they want to learn it because they did realize that as citizens, if they want to live in a better society, they have to understand, of course, that everyone can understand everyone else. And this is a two-way process. So hearing young people are learning sign language. So when a deaf pupil gets into a school, he can be welcomed by a few hearing people having some knowledge of sign language. And this, I think, is really great and important and should be developed everywhere. Now, every language is to be respected, to be learned, and to be shared. I mean, a language has to be shared, not only among a restricted number of individuals, but with all those who want to learn it and use it. And this is what education, I mean, once more, is about.
Chris?
Yes, I'd like to add about the importance of the deaf theater movement. Americans brought that exchange to France, and there have been many cultural exchanges since that time. Both LSF, French deaf culture, that has continued to spread. And it is true that both hearing and deaf French people are learning LSF, which will only help break down barriers further and create a better community for all, with everyone pursuing and advocating for the access of deaf language and deaf community into the greater society.
I'd like to make a comment. I think inclusion can be both positive and negative. I think if you were to reverse the mainstream experience, if you know what I mean by that, by having a deaf majority, a signing environment, have sign language be the primary language of instruction, and classes with everyone using sign language, regardless of their hearing status. We used to and still do have a program out in California that it's called the Tripod School. That was founded by a hearing mother who had a deaf son, as well as a hearing daughter. And she wanted both of them to be able to attend the same school. She founded the Tripod School, which had mixed classes. And that was quite nice because you had more of a deaf space and sign language was the primary language. Chris.
Yes, if I might add to that. The idea isn't a new one. It's been around for hundreds of years to have this experiment bringing together the deaf and hearing community to learn sign language together as part of a curriculum in their educational experience. It's been replicated in many schools, including the Tripod School. There have been a number of deaf authors who have included the concept of gestural language to increase access for all. Albert Ballin wrote a book, The Deaf Howl. The Mute Howl, the Deaf Mute Howl. This was to encourage hearing people to learn sign language and gestural languages, to allow for the interaction of the deaf and hearing community together. But again, this is not a new idea. It's been tried in a number of different iterations, and it will continue on its journey as it ever evolves into the future. So the hope is that the majority culture of hearing people will learn to accept and allow for greater accessibility with the deaf community as part of their society.
I mean, the tripod experience is in our book. You will find it there. I just want to add something to what Christopher said. In 2010, we opened an option at our baccalaureate, you know, the final exam before getting into universities. And I created an LSF option there. And of course, this was very, very, active insofar as many students took LSF in their curriculum, and therefore LSF could develop. Well, of course, we are miles away from what should be done, but at least there is an awareness of this possibility of having more and more hearing students take and learn sign languages the world over. And this is great.
Just to add to the remarks about Tripod, in the Deaf Studies archive here, we have collections of many boxes of documents that talk about that school and its history. It's very interesting to me that the research shows that both deaf and hearing reading skills, their literacy skills, rose as a result of a bimodal instruction. Parents often wanted to put their children into this program because it was highly successful in educating both deaf and hearing students. And I find that fascinating. I do want to share a fascinating story about Gallaudet's lineage. We don't hear much about the family trees of Claire and Gallaudet. Dr. Karen Christie, who is a scholar, discovered the great-great-granddaughter through marriage, who is also deaf, who attended Gallaudet. She actually works for a Hispanic museum in New York City now. What's interesting is that that museum has hired many deaf women who have graduated from Fanwood School for the Deaf. Her name is Eleanor Sherman Font. She married a Hispanic man. So I thought I'd share that anecdote. Do you have other stories of the family connections between these two individuals, Claire or Gallaudet?
There are many, but they're more hidden. They're waiting to be discovered and shared. What's nice about this book project is that Marielle was able to become quite close with Mr. Laurent Claire Holt. Mr. Holt is currently living in Canada. We've been able to have a number of virtual conversations with him. It's wonderful to have that direct connection to a descendant of Laurent Claire. Laurent Claire's family descendants are still living. We've been able to reach out to many of them and gather information about Claire. We're waiting for more information to come to light, and as we learn more, we will be able to have more publications about Claire and Gallaudet and have a number of various perspectives from their various descendants share information with us. We can utilize the lens of sign language, the lens of the impact on the deaf community, and have a greater number of perspectives to make the story more rich. Currently, there are many deaf historians doing research and publishing many articles about Claire and Gallaudet's experience that further adds to the information to be shared.
Could you tell me more about what it was like to collect resources, collect this visual history of Gallaudet and Claire?
Yeah.
Did you use their diaries? Did you use information from the school? What type of sources did you find? And how did you look into their family tree?
Now, family tree and genealogy, I mean, we spent quite a lot of time on these topics, and we managed, of course, in the book to publish one, which is, I think, correct and true to life. Now, to get as close as possible to these two characters and pioneers in many ways, I investigated with Christopher, of course. We investigated in the direction of Yale University, because many things are there in what they call Clerc papers. And many documents were sent to me. Unfortunately, the quality of the paper is not good at all. Many of those letters written by Clerc and Gallaudet and sent to other people, okay, I mean, it's nearly impossible to read them. I mean, the paper is too old and the ink is really, really pale. So I spent hours trying to get some, you know, some substance out of them. But I mean, the result was really, I mean, disappointing. Now, of course, we've met many university professors working very much on these topics. And I think they have already brought to the fore many data actually. But we can still hope, of course, to find the totally unknown document, the archive document nobody found, and so on and so forth. Now, I mean, this is why, of course, this process we started cannot be stopped in any way. I mean, personally, I am inhabited by these two characters. And so, of course, I mean, if by chance I have an idea of where I could investigate further, of course, I will do it.
We have a number of visual pieces of artwork that represent Clerc and the work that he'd done with Gallaudet University. And thanks to the contributors, we were able to include those in our publication. We have information from instructors who are deaf. We were able to study and read archived and rare documents. We have at our availability now a plethora of information, more now than has ever been discovered in the past.
Might also be very interesting, of course, to follow what artists are doing. I mean, just to give one example, yesterday I exchanged emails with Nancy Rourke. You know her, of course, a very famous painter in the Diva movement. And she was so nice, and I hope she's listening to me tonight, maybe. Anyway, she was very nice, and she said to me that she was at the moment working on her next painting, dealing with Gallaudet and Laurent Clerc around the concept of death banquets and so on. So artists, of course, and their imagination are also somehow recreating reality or illuminating reality by all their, you know, imagination and creativity. And they teach us many things. I mean, I cannot, of course, speak more about Nancy Rourke's painting, although she gave me some information because it is not yet finished. But I mean, she's really investigating in an area I had not personally explored. So, welcome to the club.
There are some other questions here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm particularly impressed, Muriel, with in Paris, the library for deaf women. Louise Welser Gallard, are you familiar or do you know any more about that deaf woman?
Yes, she's in the book. I mean, a beautiful picture. I mean, she's in the book. Now, why? At a certain time, of course, she was teaching in Bordeaux or in the Bordeaux area. And she was teaching her own way against the will of the director of the school. So, of course, the director of the school was not very happy with her. And at an international conference, this story, her story, was brought to the fore, and all American people present at the conference supported her very warmly. And she became famous in France as well. And of course, the director of the school said, okay, I mean, do whatever you want. Once again, it's another example of how Americans have always been supportive to French people. Another example. And she was, at a certain time, she was called the Joan of Arc of deaf people, because she wanted she wanted sign language to be taught to her students. But the head of the school said, no, oral. We oralists. She said, no, sign language. Okay, the French did not defend her that much. But at this international Congress, all Americans signed a sort of petition or whatever it was, and they said, oh, this lady is wonderful, a feminist, a woman in favor of sign language. We are going to support her. That's another story inside the story. I mean, the story of Laurent Clerc and Thomas Gallaudet, by the way, is full of hundreds of small stories inserted in the middle. And this is really, really interesting because it's very rich, actually.
All right, we'll close now for the Q&A.
So the question is, this is Christopher Secchi, former superintendent of the Laurent Clerc Association. I'm currently writing a book applicable to all ages, utilizing English and French. I've created a family tree, genealogy, for the Clerc family. This is available in both English and French. It was Mr. Laurent Clerc Holt who assisted me in this task. Assisting me as well as Mark Pregnard. We've been working together and continue to do so. I think it's important that we recognize that this work will continue, that future publications, either about Clerc from members of the Clerc family, that we need to continue to document this information and that it is accessible to all ages. We need narrative stories more appropriate for young children. We need individuals in France to be more familiar with Clerc and his history. I see Marielle is holding up a picture of the genealogy, the family tree that we included in our book.
Yeah, here it is.
Thank you, Marielle. That's wonderful to show that. My hope is that into the future, there will be even more collaborations within the French and American deaf communities to work together to further our learning. I would hope that it includes academic research, writings, and teachings that could further be the creation of more literature that could be utilized to instruct both deaf and hearing students about the important past and continue to share it for future generations.
Thanks, Chris. Our next question is from someone named Olivia Hansen. The question is, how do the members of the deaf community who you've spoken to about your book project and research feel about it?
Muriel, would you like to answer first?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure I got the question. You mean what were the reactions of the deaf communities when they discovered we were working on this project? Is that the question?
Yes, it is.
Okay, thank you, sorry. So, I mean, the reaction was very often positive. I mean, of course, I contacted the Laurent Clerc Association. I know these people and they've been very, very nice with me and provided information. I mean, everybody has been associated, of course, as much as I could. Now, when you look at the bibliography in our book, which is about 10 or 11 or 12 pages long, you will discover many, many names of authors, writers, university professors, deaf or hearing people who have been working on this topic. I mean, I probably know 2/3 of them. I mean, those who are living, of course, right? And we've been working together in many ways. And I really appreciated the fact they really volunteered to give me information, to send me a paper, to direct me to a particular source or whatever. So, I mean, as far as I know, the reaction was very positive. I don't know about you, Chris.
Well, I can't speak for the French deaf community, but I can say that the deaf community here in America, the individuals that I know at the American School for the Deaf are thrilled about the work that we've done. Theirs being the very first school that resulted from Claire and Gallaudet's work together in the United States that is still functioning. That ASD has established an online academy that is open to the public, anyone in the United States, that will increase the accessibility and the number of people that can learn about this rich history. It's important that people know not only the names of Laurent Clerc and Thomas H. Gallaudet, but it's important that they know more of their journey, more of their rich history. Our book is not an exhaustive study of that history. We had limited time to do the research that we were hoping to pursue. We have created a book that has 5 chapters, along with PowerPoints and teacher guides that can be utilized. We're hoping that we can add to that, add more chapters to the book, continue to pursue our research, work more collaboratively with people both in America and France, deaf and hearing, to continue to develop and carry forth our efforts. Again, for the goal that deaf and hearing students become more familiar with the language and culture of the deaf community in both countries. As Marielle stated, our biography is a number of pages long. Again, it's not exhaustive. There's many more names that we can add to it. Our deepest apologies if there were any individuals that we overlooked. There were some instances where we were able to receive some narrative information, but we felt that we needed to have a different perspective. We were careful about how we framed the historical journey and the historical events of Laurent Clerc and Thomas Gallaudet. And we understand their continued influence on today's deaf education system and communities. We encourage, and was our approach, to focus on one particular lens, that being the journey of Thomas Gallaudet and Laurent Clerc. But we encourage others to add to our research and bring forth a number of different perspectives.
That's wonderful. We always need more people learning and researching and more history to add to this wealth of knowledge. Mark Prignard, wanted to share and say that Laurent Clerc Association, Clerc himself has there is a brochure
Mhm.
in both French and English, as well as a comic, a graphic novel that's been done in French by a French deaf artist, Sacrine Allier Gupin. So he wanted to share that information. Laurent Holt has a question for Chris.
So when in his teaching career, do you believe that Laurent was able to make this transition from his methodical approach that he learned in his own education to supporting this in developing American Sign Language? Was it earlier in his teaching career or later? Is there a clear demarcation?
There's a question from the other interpreter to please repeat, back up a little bit.
So in that transition, in his own education, to then supporting developing ASL, was it during his teaching career? And is there a clear demarcation between the two? Or more of a gradual transition? Could you elaborate on this topic a little further and provide any references to this evolution that Laurent was going through?
That's a wonderful question. Thank you.
Mhm.
Let me give a little bit of context as I answer it. Laurent Clerc went to a school for the deaf in Paris, INJS. And throughout his learning, he became skilled in written French as well as the deaf sign language and gestural language utilized in his classroom. But there was a difference between what sign language was used in the classroom that followed a very strict grammatical syntax. And because he learned that in the classroom and greatly valued education, he maintained that adherence to that grammar. As he traversed France in his own experiences, he was able to communicate with non-sign fluent hearing individuals utilizing written French. He maintained that skill set his entire life. As an older man visiting students at the School for the Deaf, he tried to impart upon them the importance of learning sign language and the importance of learning a written language and being careful in your written language expression and utilizing appropriate grammar, because he recognized that a change in grammar could result in a change in meaning. For example, eat to live or live to eat.
Mhm.
They each contain the same 3 words,
Mhm.
but changing the structure of the sentence order changes the meaning. Laurent Clerc understood the importance of having fluency in your written language
Mhm.
and to be able to express your thoughts through written language to people who were non-signing fluent. He tried to emphasize that to the young students of the time. Laurent Clerc did have fluency in ASL to be able to communicate, but he always incorporated some of the French Sign Language. You have to keep in mind that American Sign Language has essentially been creolized.
Mhm.
It incorporates some of the old signs from LSF. It incorporates some indigenous signs from peoples in the States. Martha's Vineyard Sign Language has been incorporated. And so American Sign Language, as it is today, is really a melting pot of a number of different sign languages. So it's not as it once was, as he originally brought it to the States. Some of the signs that we utilize in American Sign Language today still follow the initialized French word. For example, to search utilizes the initialized C from the French word. Avec is another one. It utilizes the letter A and initializes in the production of the sign together. So we do still have with us many of the roots of LSF that have not deteriorated or changed over time. But we do have to keep in mind that the language and instruction methodology utilized in the classroom at the time was very different than how language was used in a natural setting amongst the deaf community. Laurent Clerc did understand and did support the natural evolution of a language within a deaf community. But he emphasized always to have skill in written language as well. Laurent Clerc in his writings always adhered to the grammatical structure of English. Of all the articles that we read, we got a clear understanding and vision of Laurent Clerc's beliefs in the classroom. They did change slowly over time. It was a very slow evolution. In the School for the Deaf that was established in New York, he was able to see the success of language and its evolution in that setting. It's difficult for many of us to let go of the lessons and beliefs that we had ingrained in us as young children, but he did evolve over time and did begin to have an appreciation, but always maintained the value of a strict methodology and instruction in the classroom.
Thank you so much for that explanation, Chris. I also put in the chat from Mark Prignard the information. He invites us to visit what they are currently doing and to come to France. So we could all have a fantastic time there. There is one last question. How can people contact you for further collaboration?
Marielle, would you like to answer that first? And are you asking that of the authors?
Yes,
Yeah.
Marielle and Chris.
Yeah, of course. Yes. Now you can contact me through the consortium website, which is, I mean, whose link is everywhere in the flyers, in the books, everywhere. So if you apply to this website, I will, of course, reply to you, and with much pleasure, of course. I just wanted to add something to what Christopher said about creolization, very quick way. In America, Dr. Cagle and also Dr. Supala, I mean, produced very, very interesting analysis of this phenomenon. I mean, this is just an information. Anyway, I mean, just before we leave you, I mean, I'd like to thank all the organizers at the RIT for putting so much energy, time, and people in this Zoom webinar tonight. I greatly enjoyed it. And I think personally that we are only at the very beginning of a long, long, long story. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much to both Chris and Marielle, as well as Joan for moderating. And this was a wonderful conversation and discussion. I learned so much great history about both Claire and Gallaudet today. Before we sign off and close today, I would like to introduce you to Jean Beam, who is the woman who's responsible for helping us plan and who has put so much effort and energy into planning this webinar. So Jean.
Hello. I am Jean Beam. This is my sign name. We have been planning and coordinating for such time for this event, and it's so nice to see it come to fruition that this special partnership has come to be. It's incredible that we have such a group of interpreters available for access services at the last minute. So thank you so much, everyone, for providing access. It's impossible to thank you all enough for making this possible.